Hi, everybody. My name is Jessica Swap. I am the 4-H and Ag agent in Grant County, New Mexico. And because of the COVID-19 situation, we're having to do some different kind of programming. So I thought I would share this presentation that I gave about picking show stock. So I hope that you will enjoy this and gain something from it. We're going to be talking about pigs, lambs, and goats today. There is some interactive parts of this, so feel free to, when you're watching this, have some interaction with it. This is my first video, so no guarantees that it's going to be awesome, but here we go. The first thing when choosing to do show animals is you're going to want to figure out your budget. You're going to want to have this number kind of in mind before you even look at animals or anything like that. Your budget is probably the number one thing to keep at the forefront of your mind. Another good way to keep records of your project as you go along is to use the 4-H Livestock Record app. The only bad part about this is that it is for Apple devices only, but it's a really good way to track everything that you have going on with your livestock projects. So for instance, you can upload pictures, keep track of weights, expenses, feed, medicines, all of the above can be tracked on this device. And then at the end of the year, you can simply just upload the data and you can print that out and put it into your record books. This is what my family uses to keep track of things, and it's really, really essential in our livestock projects. So here's some feedback on what the average cost of these projects are. I will say I think some of these numbers are a little high maybe, but some of them are also kind of a little low. So this is off of a publication that was put together by Texas A&M, and it just kind of talks about for each species, what the average purchase price is, what the feed costs are, supplies, vet costs, fees such as entry fees, as well as any kind of miscellaneous costs that you may incur. So they have a total cost for a show lamb as about $1,800. I'm not really sure if that's an accurate number. However, I will say this is completely subjective. You can spend way more than this. You can spend way less than this and still end up with a very good animal. It's just about knowing how to pick them. Anybody can set the price on any animal that they have, but you as the buyer need to know if that animal is in fact worth that amount of money. So hopefully this presentation will help you to understand kind of what to look for when we're looking at these animals. However, just keep this in mind that no, this is not a cheap project to do. However, it's a very rewarding project. So when we're looking at some of these animals, make sure to kind of keep these numbers in mind so that you can make some good decisions when deciding what animals to buy. I want to add that there is a big difference between the show animal world and the commercial world. So yes, you can go out and get a show pig or something from someone for $50. However, if that animal does not have the genetics to be a show animal, then they're probably just not going to fill out quite as well as we would like. They probably will do very well in the commercial world, but for the show stock world, it's definitely a beauty contest and it's kind of a different realm. So just keep that in mind when you're going to look at animals. Are you looking at these animals from a reputable show stock breeder, not just from somebody down the street who just has some animals that they're looking to get rid of. The first thing also to think about too after you decide to go ahead with this is your facilities. Facilities are very, very important. Obviously, we would all like to have a facility just like this where it's all indoor, air conditioned, perfect temperature. However, this is not real life for most of us. So you do not have to have a facility like this to be successful. Obviously, if you can, that's great. But if you can't, just getting the basics is still going to get you to the end result. Some things that you are going to need is a windbreak. You're going to need shade. You're also going to need something that's dog proof or predator proof, something fireproof. Also, a facility that has cool water and clean water. Those are very, very important to all animals is cool, clean, fresh water. Also, clean pens. These very simple things are very key into having a successful show animal. Some other things to keep in mind is the bedding and the temperature control. Again, you don't have to have top-notch facilities, just have the best facilities that you possibly can. So some types of bedding that you're going to want to possibly invest in is, dirt, sand, pressure fines, cement, shavings. All of those are very good bedding options, just as long as you keep those pens clean. Another thing to think about is the temperature of your facility. So if your barn or facility is going to be 60 degrees or cooler outside, you're going to want to get a heat lamp, especially for pigs. If it's going to be hotter than 90 degrees, you're probably going to need a fan. You should also always have proper ventilation. The barn should be open to the south and closed to the north. And once again, keeping those pens clean and dry. Here's a fan that you can get. These are very good for keeping that air moving within the facility to keep those animals comfortable. Animals cannot put on weight if they are stressed out and are not able to, they're just trying to stay alive is basically what they're doing. So an animal's not going to put on weight and do really well if they're just trying to stay cool all day long. Selection on pigs. Selecting a good pig is the #1 contributor to success. Some things to keep in mind are age, weight, breed type, structure, and gender. Show pigs' age. Pigs intended for major livestock shows in the fall are born in March and April. They're purchased when they are 1 to 2 months old and are also market ready by 6 to 7 months of age. You're going to want to stay within that 6 to 7 months of age, as that way they will put on the appropriate amount of weight in that time. Anything older than 7 months of age, you're going to start to see these animals to begin to look very, very stale. They look very old. A big indicator of that is on show pigs, you will start to see their chine bones start to stick out, and that's an indicator of an animal that's old, or getting older, I should say. Weight. Baby pigs are weaned from sows and they begin eating feed when they weigh approximately 18 to 21 pounds. Barrows, which are the castrated males, typically remain on feed for 120 days and gain approximately 0.7 pounds per day at the beginning of the feeding period and 1.64 pounds per day towards the end of the feeding period. These are all averages, so these numbers are very dependent on the type of animal that you have and the type of feed that you're feeding. This yields a weight gain of 160 to 200 pounds, which puts swine at a market weight between 240 to 280 pounds. The weight range for the Grant County Fair is 200 to 280 pounds. So you have to have a pig that weighs 200 at least and can't be over 280 to be able to compete at the Grant County Fair. As for the other fairs, Southern Fair also has a minimum, and I think all the other fairs do as well. But I would encourage you to go ahead and get online and check their rules so that way you can stay within the ranges that they have. A range of possibilities exist for weight gain. Some pigs gain weight faster, some gain weight slower than others, so you just have to know your animal. Show pig structure. The first area you should evaluate is structure. If a baby pig has poor structure, it's going to be difficult for that animal to function as a 260 to 280 pound market ready animal. So they should move freely and stand square and straight on his or her feet and legs. Pig's feet should be pointed straight ahead. You're going to want to avoid animals that toe in or toe out. On their legs, pigs should stand square and straight on their feet and legs. You're going to want to look for the animal to have long, smooth strides as they walk. Any kind of problems that they have as babies don't get better. They actually get worse. So any animal that has a structure problem as a young animal, those problems are just going to be magnified with the more weight that they put on and the older that they get. Some more on structure. Hocks. A hock is the joint in the back leg between the ham and the hoof. Evaluate the hock for proper flexibility, often referred to as proper set to the hock. Avoid animals that have too much flex, which would be sickle hock, or have limited flex, post-legged. If the legs are pointing forward, the hocks should be also. Avoid animals that are bow-legged or cow-hocked. Pasterns. Pasterns are the joints that connect the fetlock to the top of the hoof. Ideally, the pasterns make a 45-degree angle with the ground. Shoulders. The animal's shoulder should tie in smoothly with its neck and make a 45-degree angle with the body. So here's some pictures to illustrate the angles when they're not correct, when they're too straight or they're too much. That way you can have an idea of what you're looking for. The barrel that you see there, the dark barrel that you see, is obviously one of the most poorest structured animals I could find to show you. This animal has a lot of things going wrong with it. So this is a good image to have in your mind for what you are not looking for. Here's some more on show pig structure, just to show you the angulation from the shoulder down to that toe. When there's not enough angulation, you're going to see that kind of post-legged look, very, very straight. When it's too much, you're going to see those dew claws really, really digging into the ground. So the picture to the left is the one that's just right. Some more on show pigs. There's good conformation and poor conformation. When we're looking at the skeleton of these animals, you're going to want to look for the angulation of their skeletal structure just to show, their flexibility and how well they can move. Another good way to really keep in mind what a good one looks like is to constantly be looking at good ones. With the internet, we have the ability to be able to get online and look at really, really good, high quality animals and just keep those images in your mind for what you're looking for when you're selecting your show stock. Show pig muscle. Muscle and structure go hand in hand. You should evaluate the animal's muscle from behind, the side, and down their top. It is important for baby pigs to have adequate muscle from the beginning so they have a solid foundation of muscle that they can continue to develop as they grow. Expressive muscle because they are evaluated on the ability to produce a carcass that results in the maximum amount of lean meat with a minimum amount of excess fat. Market barrows, thick, level, muscular loin, and a long, level, wide ham. The muscling in the ham should be long and deep, creating an expressive look in the animal's hindquarter. Expressive muscle refers to muscle that you see in a live animal. Heavily muscled pigs will also be wide in their shoulders and their chest floor. So let's look at what this actually looks like and where to look for it. Some muscle indicators from the side view. Number one is going to show you the turn to the ham. That curvature of that ham is going to be an indicator of the amount of muscle that's there. The fullness of the loin is where number two is pointing. Width of the forearm is number three. This is going to show you how much indication of muscle they have there in their forearm. And number four, muscle expression through their blade and their top is number four. Number five, their bone size. We're wanting pigs that are very big boned, so that's where you're going to look for that. Also, number six is the depth and the spring of rib. This is where they're going to show you whether they have that rib shape or they don't. We're looking for pigs that have a lot of rib shape, so if you see one that's kind of a little flat-sided, you're going to want to stay away from that. All right, from the rear and top view. Number one is going to show you the width behind the shoulder. Number two is going to show you the width and fullness of that loin. Number three, the width of their hip. Number four, width from stifle to stifle. Number five, base width. Also, keep in mind that width and natural width is going to give you an indication of how much muscle this animal can put on, that their skeleton can handle. Balance, or otherwise known as eye appeal. Balance and eye appeal refers to the combination of structural correctness, muscle, and finish. Pigs that combine these traits are very complete. You'll hear judges a lot of times like to talk about the complete hog in the class. A hog that is correctly balanced is proportional and pleasing to look at on the profile. They're tall-fronted with their neck attaching high onto the top of their blade. They're level-topped and will set high in their tail setting. Structure can either help or hinder a hog's eye appeal. Remember, this is a beauty contest. So if they don't look good, you're probably going to see the gait usually right off the bat. Show pig balance, eye appeal. So where are we looking when we're looking for this balance? We're looking to see if they're tall-fronted. That's going to be where number one is. We're wanting to see those pigs really kind of head uphill. Number two, you're going to see how level topped they are. If you think back to that Duroc barrel that I showed you before, he is the exact opposite of something that is level topped. So this pig is very level topped. You're going to want to see something very level hipped. Also, something you're going to be looking for is a clean underline, as well as a clean jowl. Their jowl refers to basically their double chin, if you will. So you're going to be looking for a pig that does not have a double chin. All right, so here's some interactive parts. Between 1 and 2, which gilt has the more desirable degree of leanness? If you picked number 1, you are correct. When looking back at those animals, you would notice that number 2 had a little bit more of that kind of waisty underline, a little bit more fat there in their jowl. So this pig is kind of more ideal in terms of what we're looking for. Okay, shifting to sheep and goats. We're going to talk about age. Market lambs and goats are normally weaned and sold at 2 to 3 months of age and shown at 10 to 14 months. Anything older than that, once again, you're going to start to see these animals begin to look very, very stale, and it's very hard to keep them very fresh looking, not only in the way that they look, but also in the way that they feel. Show lambs and goats their weight. Market lambs and goats are normally purchased weighing 30 to 50 pounds. These animals remain on feed for approximately 5 to 8 months and gain 1 pound of weight per 5 to 6 pounds of feed. Final weight is dependent on the frame size and what feed the animal is provided. Ideally, market lamb weight ranges from 110 to 160. Market goats range from 60 to 115. For the Grant County Fair, the minimum weight for sheep is 90 pounds with no maximum, and goats is 60 pounds with no maximum. So these are some things to also keep in mind if you're going to be traveling to other fairs, is to make sure that your animal is within those weight ranges, and as well as age. You're going to want to make sure that these animals are within the proper ages to attend these other shows. Sheep and goat structure. So once again, we're looking for correct skeletal angulation to those feet and legs. Here's some pictures of what some very badly structured animals look like versus what a very well-structured animal would look like. So you have the angulation there on the far left is the correct. Moving towards the right, you have something that's called calf kneed, whenever that actually goes back. There also can be very weak pastern, just like pigs. So you'll see kind of that dew claw area kind of, and their pastern very, very weak. Also, you can see them where they're very, very buck-kneed. It kind of almost looks like they're going to fall over because their front legs are so bucked over that knee that all of their weight is really pushing down on that knee, and it really makes them look like they're going to tip over. Some things to look at there on the back side of these animals. You'll see the correct structure there on the far left. Then in the middle, you have something that's called sickle-hocked. And then on the far right is post-legged. So once again, those angles of the animal's skeleton are either too much or not enough. And that's going to lead to the sickle-hock, the post-legged look. All right, so looking at these animals from their chest, you're going to see on the far left is the correct image. Then you have something that's toed out. You can kind of see what that looks like. Then you have toed in, also a problem. Also, something to keep in mind is to watch for animals that are knock-kneed. So yes, are all those toes pointed in the right direction? Yes, but their knees are pulled in. So make sure to kind of keep track of those types of things when you're evaluating these animals. Okay, from the rear view, on the far left, you have an animal that is correct. Then in the middle, you have an animal that is bowed out. And then on the far right, you have the cow-hocked look. So again, things to avoid when looking at for show animals. So where are we going to look for this muscle? A naturally big-hipped, wide-made lamb or goat will have the ability to lay more muscle and mass onto their skeleton, whereas a narrow-based animal doesn't have the frame to carry as much muscle. So where we're looking for these, the rear view, we're going to be looking at number 1, the pin width. We're going to be looking for width from stifle to stifle, which is indicated with the number 2 arrow. Number 3, we're going to be looking for shape and boldness of their lower quarter. That's going to be the number 3. Number 4 is their base width. The muscle indicators from the top. Number 5, the width and shape of their rack. Number 6, boldness of their rib. Number 7, width and fullness of their loin edge. Number 8, width and squareness of their hip. All right, muscle indicators from the side. Number 1, you're going to want to be looking at the turn to their leg. Number 2, the expressiveness of their rack. Number 3, the fullness of their loin. Number 4, the width of their forearm. Number 5, the depth and spring of rib. So really, it's not much different across the board. It's just on a different animal. Muscle indicators at a 3/4 view, which you'll see in the goat, is that turn to their leg is number 1. Number 2, the expressiveness of their rack. Number 3, fullness of their loin. Number 4, width of their forearm. Number 5, depth and spring of rib. And number 6, that base width. Sheep and goat balance. Again, this is that eye appeal that they're looking for, kind of the beauty contest aspect. Balance and eye appeal is essential in today's market show industry. They must combine muscle, structural correctness, and finish, all while maintaining an eye-appealing package. A balanced sheep will have plenty of muscle while maintaining the appropriate degree of finish. Cleanliness and levelness of lines in sheep shows as shallow-chested and Cleanliness and levelness of lines in sheep shows as shallow-chested and gets progressively deeper as you move back into a deep, full flank and is necessary to complete a balanced appearance. A long and clean neck connects smoothly to the top of the shoulder. A smooth, level top line and hip design will add to the balance of the weather as well. Sheep and goat balance. Some things to look for. Balance and eye appeal on an ideal market lamb. Number 1, cleanliness and levelness of lines is number 1. Number 2 will show you that they are tall fronted. Number 3, long and extended neck. Number 4, that deep, full flank. So as you can see, these animals kind of have that uphill look. That's something that you're looking for. Balance and eye appeal, the ideal market goat. Number 1, the cleanliness and levelness of those lines. Number 2, that they're tall fronted. Number 3, long extended neck. Number 4, deep and full flank. All right, here's a little bit of livestock judging. Between 1 and 2, which goat is wider constructed? If you guess number 2, you are correct. Between 1 and 2, which goat is more muscular from behind? Remember where we're looking for those muscle indicators at. If you guess number 1, you are also correct. Between 1 and 2, which is more level in his top line? If you guess number 2, you're correct. So let's talk a little bit about health. Always consult with the animal's breeder about vaccinations or treatments the animal has received under their care. You're going to want to develop a relationship with your veterinarian. Also keep in mind fly control. Flies can get really, really bad during the summer and make it really hard for these animals to put on weight when they're just constantly fighting off flies. Something else to also keep in mind is the internal parasites and worms. You're going to want to deworm your animal when you first get them home and then establish a worming program every 21 to 30 days. You're going to want to have a thermometer on hand. So here's the normal temperatures for these animals. Pigs are 101.5 to 102.5. Sheep are 102 to 103. Goats are also 102 to 103. So anything higher than those, your animal is it has a fever and it's obviously trying to fight off some sort of an infection. This is going to be something you're going to want to tell your veterinarian when you call, is knowing their temperature. You're going to want to properly use prescribed drugs and the drug that's labeled for your species. So working with your veterinarian, making sure that you're following label instructions, the labels are the law, is also going to give you the best results. making sure that you're giving the proper dosage is going to make sure that that animal does in fact actually get better. So more is not always better. Whatever the label calls for is what you have to do. Know your withdrawal dates. So if you're going to be going to a show and you're needing to give some sort of a medication, you're going to want to know the withdrawal date on that medication to make sure that that animal is not having any kind of drug residues at whenever they get sent off to the sale. So know your withdrawal dates, and if you're going to fall within the time frame that withdrawal date's not going to be met, you're going to want to make some decisions based on that. If you suspect a problem, ask for help before it's too late. Many times, families wait until the problem has escalated, and it becomes really, really hard to fix at that point in time. So if you think you have a problem, make sure to ask for help. You can get a hold of me or your veterinarian, your county agent, wherever you are. Just make sure you're visiting with the people who kind of know a little bit about what they're doing so that they can help you. Feeding and nutrition. So there's many different types of show feeds. What you decide to feed is up to you. Here's just kind of a list of what's available where we are. However, where you are, you might have some different options. But the types of show feeds that are relatively easy to get a hold of are High Noon, Purina Show Chow, Show Right, Mormons, and Lidner. Some things to think about when you're going to be feeding these animals is having the proper equipment to do so. So you're going to want to be getting some feeders that you can hang on the fence. You do not want to feed these animals on the ground. Also, having a feeder that they can't tip over and spill everything out onto the ground is going to help as well. Once again, when they eat off of the ground, they're going to be possibly eating dirt and manure and all kinds of things. And this is how these animals get sick and how you start to have some parasite problems. So having a feeder that hangs on the fence is going to be absolutely essential. Also having clean water. You can have the water in a bucket, or as you see here in some of these automatic waters, or the nipples that you can attach to the PVC. Whatever works for you, just however, make sure that the water is clean and fresh and cool. Those are ideal for getting these animals to be able to drink water. You can make some small changes and have really, really good success. Some things to keep in mind is consistency. Always be consistent with how you feed your animals, in what you're feeding them, and how you're watering them. It doesn't matter how you really do this, just making sure that they have clean water, clean feed, that they're not eating off of the ground. Also, you're going to want to feed your animals separately. So feeding them all together, usually you're going to see one animal kind of take over and they kind of hog all the feed, and then the animal that really needs more feed doesn't get any because they get fought off. So making sure that you're feeding these animals separately is going to be ideal for getting them to gain the appropriate amount of weight. You're also going to want to learn how to read a feed tag. That is absolutely essential in understanding show feeds. So here is a Purina show chow, show pig ration. You're going to want to be able to understand what you're looking for. I'm not endorsing Purina. I just found this and I thought it was a good picture to illustrate what we're looking for. So whenever we're looking for show rations, we're going to want to take in mind the protein, the crude protein, which is usually listed first. We're also going to want to know the fat and the fiber levels, as well as some of the other supplements that are in these feeds. Ingredients, you're going to want to also kind of know what the ingredients of the feeds are, understanding the directions. So this particular feed needs to be fed to pigs that are weighing 50 pounds or more. So if you have a pig that you're starting out that's a little bit less than 50 pounds, you're probably going to want to start with more of like a starter ration. It also tells you where to keep your feed so that way it doesn't spoil, because these feeds do spoil. So knowing how to read for these things is very, very important. I'm going to add also to making sure that your feed label is specific. I don't like to see feeds that kind of give you a range. So, it would say crude protein somewhere in between 18 and 15%. When we're finishing out these animals, we really, really need to know the exact percentages of the elements of their feed. So if you're buying a show feed that does not have specific percentages, I would possibly think about, maybe moving to a different feed, whether you do that this year or possibly in the future. Feed additives. It's a secret. Not really. Rule number 1 is to keep it simple. If they're thin, lacking fat cover, obviously you're going to want to add more fat. If they're too fat, have too much cover, you're going to want to add protein. Don't feed any type of feed additive that is not labeled for use in the species that you're showing. So you're not going to want to feed a show pig supplement to a show lamb if it's not labeled to be able to feed to both. Make sure that you're reading the label. Once again, the label is the law. The label's also going to guarantee you success in the fact that that supplement's going to be used correctly and you're going to get the results that you want. Also, don't try a new feed product for the first time at a stock show. It's really easy to do, to have somebody say, oh, hey, I tried this and it really works, so you should try it too. Really, a feed additive or product of some kind really should be tried about a week or so before your show. Try it at home, just so that you know whether or not it's going to work, if your animal might have any adverse reactions, those types of things. You're going to want to know that before you get to the fair. The fair is the worst time to figure out that it's not working for you. And too much of anything can be a bad thing. So just always kind of keep that in mind when you're thinking about your supplementation program. Exercise. Don't confuse exercise with walking and training your animal. Exercise is going to trim excess fat. So obviously we have a lamb here that needs exercise. However, here we have a lamb that does not need more exercise. More exercise is not going to fix the look of this animal. Some things to think about is how our training program is going to actually put, our exercise program, how it's going to put weight on these animals. Are we looking for the marathon runner or the sprinter? So some things to think about whenever you're exercising your animals. Some essential equipment that you're gonna need for having a show animal. Obviously, halters that fit. You're gonna want to have several of those. Also, you're going to need some muzzles if you have sheep and goats, some blankets, collars, clippers, blowers, possibly, a table if you're going to have sheep and goats. Also for pigs, you're going to want to have a pig whip. Usually going to need several of those just because they get lost and misplaced. So you're going to want to have a few of those around. Some soap that you can use to wash these animals. And then some sort of a container to keep all of your supplies in that you can lock. You can get, these fancy show boxes from, different places. You can also just get a plastic tote to keep some of this in, just something that you can easily keep all of your supplies in and that you can also lock. So that way, whenever you're not around your box at a fair or something, that your equipment doesn't get stolen. Also, you're going to need a brush and a sprayer. And usually for pigs, you're going to want at least one pig board. Some things to help you along the way are some schools that are coming up. On the left, you'll see a flyer for the Northern Regional Livestock School. This is where you can take your goats, your sheep, your pigs, and your kids, and be able to get some kind of intensive training over a weekend. They're in Farmington, so there's the flyer. You can get more information from your local county agent as well. On the right is also the Southern Regional Livestock School that's offered. It's going to be held in Tiercy this year. And there's the details for that. You can get with your county agent if you're wanting to attend that one. These are very, very good for anyone. It doesn't matter how many years you've been showing or if you've never shown at all. These schools are absolutely vital in teaching you everything that you're going to need to know to be successful. So I highly recommend these types of schools. It doesn't matter how long you've been showing, you can definitely gain something from these schools and attending. You're also going to get your animals out of the barn, be able to expose them to what it's like at a county fair, at these shows. That way they've at least had exposure to this before you take them to the county fair. The worst thing you can probably do for your animal is to not expose them to different environments. So when you get your animal loaded up and you haul them to a jackpot or to these livestock schools, you're giving them life experience. So that way, whenever they get to a fair, they're not going to be as stressed out because they've done this before. It's not a new thing for them. So you can always kind of tell animals that have never left their barn when they get to the county fair, because these animals just sometimes do not do well. They stress out, and it just doesn't go well for the animal or the exhibitor. So I highly recommend these schools that you can attend here in New Mexico. To finish up, I wanted to talk about the characteristics of successful people. So successful people are confident, they're hardworking. Failure actually increases their motivation to work harder. They challenge themselves and they take credit for success and take responsibility for failure. These are the people that are typically there in the winner's circle with the buckles and the ribbons. These are the types of people that do all these things at home. So they take care of these animals at home. They expose them to shows. They work hard. And working hard doesn't mean, getting your animal out, a week before the county fair and deciding that we're going to start working with them. These animals have to be worked with just about every single day for the entire summer. So it is a level of commitment that has to be made by the exhibitor and the family. So hard work happens all year. It does not happen there towards the end of the year, and then we just hope for the best. Some characteristics of unsuccessful people: they doubt themselves, they're very anxious, they don't work hard, they give up when things don't go well, and they just go through the motions without much participation, and they believe someone else controls whether they succeed or fail. So, whenever the exhibitor doesn't work hard with that animal, it's very, very evident in the show ring to the judge. They can tell whether this youth has worked hard all year long training this animal, working with this animal, feeding this animal. They're going to be able to tell. So if you don't work hard, it's very, very evident when they walk into the show ring. Even if you do work hard, sometimes things just don't go your way. We can't control every judge, we can't control every situation. So sometimes Yeah, you worked really hard and you did all the things right, but hey, you still didn't do very well at your fair. People who are successful, they don't give up. They just learn from it and move on. You don't want to just go through the motions and not really get the most out of it. So once again, getting a show animal and then that animal just staying in the barn all year long, and they just go to your county fair. You really want to get them out. Attend some jackpots. Go to some schools. Make sure you're getting them out of the barn and practicing with them. Don't just go through the motions. Like, make the most of it. You're spending money on these animals, so you're going to want your kids to get the most out of this that they possibly can. People who believe someone else controls whether they succeed or fail. One of my pet peeves is always hearing about how the judge just didn't like the kid, or they don't like that family, or something like that. Judges like what they like. They're looking for a specific type of animal, and sometimes we just don't have that animal for them that day, or our animal's not looking their best. One person doesn't control everything. So just keeping in mind that just because you didn't have the animal that person was looking for today doesn't mean that you have a really bad animal. It just means that the judge didn't like your animal that day. So it's just one person's opinion on one particular day. Animals change from day to day, and how they handle environments and situations is also going to change from day to day. So the next day could be completely different. The next show could be completely different, different judge, different circumstances. So not letting the judge control whether or not you think you have succeeded or failed. Making sure that it's not someone else's fault. Everything is typically on us. So we can either learn from it or not. Well, I hope that this was beneficial for you. If you have any questions or you need help, feel free to reach out to me. My contact info is listed there. I'm with the Grant County Cooperative Extension Service. Feel free to reach me by phone or by email. Right now, probably email is the best way while we work at home during the COVID-19 situation. And good luck this show season.